The sleek diplomatic vessel Earth's Hope glided through the star-studded void, carrying humanity's first official delegation to the Galactic Council. Ambassador Do-hyun Kim stood at the observation deck, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. After 20 years of diplomatic service on Earth, nothing had prepared him for this moment. The Galactic Council's station loomed ahead, a massive structure resembling a blooming flower, with crystalline petals stretching kilometers into space. Each petal represented a member species, and soon, humanity would have their own. "Ambassador, we're receiving docking instructions," reported Captain Han, her voice steady despite the historic moment. Do-hyun nodded, straightening his formal attire one last time. The welcoming party waited in the main chamber, a vast hall with soaring ceilings and walls that seemed to shimmer with living light. Ambassador Sith, a tall being with iridescent scales and 4 arms, led the council delegation. Behind him stood representatives from all 28 member species, their diverse forms creating a living rainbow of galactic life. "Welcome, children of Earth," Sith's translator conveyed, his upper arms spread in greeting. "Today marks the beginning of a new era for all our peoples." Do-hyun bowed deeply, following Earth's diplomatic protocols while respecting alien customs. Lieutenant Ji-woo Park and the security team maintained their positions behind him, their expressions professional but eyes taking in every detail. The ceremony proceeded smoothly. Do-hyun presented Earth's credentials, and Sith began the formal acceptance speech. The gathered diplomats watched from elevated platforms, their various appendages and sensory organs focused on the historic moment. Then it happened. A deep groan echoed through the chamber. High above, one of the massive decorative arches, each weighing several tons, started to crack. The ancient supporting beam, weakened by centuries of cosmic radiation, finally gave way. The alien diplomats froze, their various biology rendering them either too slow to react or physically incapable of movement at such speeds. The arch began its deadly descent toward a group of Centaurian delegates, gentle beings known for their scientific achievements but physically fragile. Lieutenant Park moved without hesitation. In 3 bounds, he crossed the chamber, calculations running through his mind. The arch was too heavy to catch directly. It would crush him too. Instead, he positioned himself at an angle, legs braced in a stance that would make his old martial arts master proud. As the beam fell, Park shifted his weight, redirecting rather than stopping the momentum. His enhanced muscles, standard for Earth's gravity, strained as he guided the falling mass away from the diplomats. The beam crashed into the floor with a thunderous impact, missing the Centaurians by meters. The chamber fell silent. Park stood up, brushing debris from his uniform. To him, it had been simple physics and training. To the aliens watching, it was impossible. Their sensors had recorded everything. The speed of his reaction, the force calculations needed to deflect such mass, the precision of movement. Ambassador Sith's scales had lost their shine, turning a pale gray, his species equivalent of blanching. The other council members whispered among themselves, their translator units creating a buzz of concerned conversation. Do-hyun saw the shift immediately. Where there had been welcoming curiosity, now there was fear. He had read about this in the first contact briefings. Many species found rapid movement threatening, and displays of physical strength often triggered deep-seated survival instincts. "Perhaps," Sith said slowly, his translator struggling to maintain a diplomatic tone, "we should discuss additional protocols regarding human integration into council space." Do-hyun nodded gracefully, but he noticed the subtle changes. The security escorts had doubled. The distance between the Earth delegation and others had increased, and in Sith's 4 eyes, there was something new, a primal wariness that no amount of diplomatic training could hide. Humanity had demonstrated its capabilities in the most innocent way possible, by saving lives. Yet that very act had revealed something that would change galactic politics forever. Humans were different. They were faster, stronger, and more durable than anyone had expected. As the ceremony concluded, Du Hyun couldn't help but wonder what other surprises awaited both humanity and their new galactic neighbors. One thing was certain: their journey into the galactic community had just become much more complicated. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. 3 months after the infamous beam incident, more reports of human physical capabilities had surfaced across Council space. Ambassador Xith stood at the central podium, his scales shimmering with determination. "Honorable representatives," he began, his translator conveying the gravity in his voice, "we face an unprecedented situation. In the past week alone, we've recorded 17 incidents involving human physical abilities that exceed safety parameters." The chamber's holographic displays showed footage from various stations: a human dock worker catching a falling cargo container, a human medical student lifting a crashed shuttle to free trapped passengers, a human child outrunning a security drone during a game of tag. Council member Ha-won Lee watched from Earth's platform, her hands gripping the railing. As humanity's chief defender in the Council, she knew what was coming. The human species, Sith continued, possesses natural capabilities that exceed military-grade enhancements in most Council races. Their reaction speed alone makes them more dangerous than our most advanced combat droids. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Arthosians clicked their mandibles nervously. The Centaurians' crystalline bodies dimmed with worry. Ha-won stepped forward. "If I may address the Council," her voice carried across the chamber, steady and clear. "These incidents you cite, every single one involved humans saving lives or preventing accidents. Is this the behavior of a dangerous species?" "That is precisely what concerns us," Sith replied. "Your species performs these feats without any apparent effort. What would happen if humans decided to use these abilities aggressively?" The chamber erupted in concerned chittering and whistles. Ha-won tried again. "We have consistently demonstrated peaceful intentions." "Peace through strength is still intimidation," interrupted a Meridian representative, their gas-filled form pulsing with agitation. Sith raised all 4 arms for silence. "I propose Emergency Regulation 7249. All humans are hereby banned from military service, security forces, and combat training within Council space. This includes private security and defensive operations." Ha-won felt her heart sink. "This is discrimination based on natural biological capabilities. Would you ban the Arthosians for their ability to survive in vacuum? The Meridians for their shape-shifting? Those abilities cannot tear apart battle-grade armor with bare hands." Sith countered, showing footage of a human rescue worker ripping through a damaged ship's hull to save trapped crew members. The vote was called. Ha-won watched as species after species signaled their approval. Only 3 races, those with similar physical capabilities to humans, voted against the ban. Back on Earth, the Human Defense Council met in their underground facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. Admiral Song reviewed the ban notification, his expression grim. "They're afraid of us," he stated simply. "Not because we threatened them, but because we could." Defense Minister Park nodded. "Their species evolved on low-gravity worlds, in stable environments. We're Space Orcs to them, creatures who survived on a death world and grew stronger for it." "What's our response?" asked General Chen. "Publicly, we accept the ban. Issue a statement about respecting Council laws and regulations," Minister Park replied. "Privately, maintain all forces at current levels. Continue training. Expand our deep space facilities beyond Council scanning range." "They think they're protecting themselves," Admiral Song mused, "but they're just leaving themselves vulnerable to real threats." In the following days, Earth's official channels broadcasted their acceptance of the ban. Human military vessels were officially decommissioned, their crews reassigned to scientific exploration. Training facilities were relabeled as physical education centers. But deep in the asteroid belt, inside hollowed-out rocks and hidden stations, humanity's defenders continued their work. They trained, they prepared, and they waited, not for war, but for the day when the Council would understand that humanity's strength had always been meant to protect, not to harm. As HFY filed her final protest against the ban, she remembered an old Earth saying, "A sword in the right hands defends more lives than it takes." She hoped the Council would learn this lesson before they needed that protection themselves. The Drachnid pirates struck without warning. Their ships, ugly and brutal machines cobbled together from stolen technology, emerged from hyperspace near Trading Station 7. The massive station, home to over 10,000 civilians, had only basic defenses, exactly how the pirates liked it. Captain Scar stood on his command deck, his cybernetic eye glowing red as it analyzed the station's weak points. His reputation for cruelty had spread across 3 sectors, but it was his cunning that made him truly dangerous. He'd waited patiently for this moment, watching as the Council's ban on human military forces left gaps in their defense networks. "Begin the attack," he growled. "Standard pattern. Disable communications first." The Council peacekeeping ships stationed nearby responded quickly but ineffectively. Their weapons, designed for minimal damage to prevent diplomatic incidents, barely scratched the pirates' reinforced hulls. Within hours, Trading Station 7 fell. The pirates stripped it of everything valuable, leaving its inhabitants trapped in sealed compartments. News of the attack reached Earth through encrypted channels. In his underground command center, Admiral Min Su Kang watched the footage with growing anger. The room around him hummed with activity as officers monitored similar attacks happening across Council space. "Third attack this week," his executive officer reported. "The Council's response times are getting worse. Their ships retreat faster each time." Min Su nodded grimly. He'd spent the months since the military ban preparing for exactly this scenario. Deep in Earth's asteroid belt, hidden shipyards had continued producing vessels. In secret bases on uninhabited moons, troops trained relentlessly. "Show me the latest training results," he ordered. Holographic displays lit up around him. Human crews ran combat drills in simulator pods, their reaction times and decision-making skills far exceeding Council standards. Special Forces teams practiced zero-gravity combat, their movements fluid and precise in ways that would terrify their alien allies. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "incoming distress signal. The pirates have hit another station. Council forces, they've already retreated." Min Su clenched his fists. Every instinct screamed at him to send help, but he knew they weren't ready yet. Moving too soon would expose Earth's secret preparations. They needed the right moment, a crisis big enough to justify breaking the ban. "Continue monitoring," he ordered, "and get me the latest intel on Scar's movements. He's building up to something bigger." In his private office later that night, Min Su reviewed personnel files. Each human under his command had been chosen not just for their skills, but for their judgment. When the time came to act, they would need to show both strength and restraint. A message flashed on his screen. Another trading station attacked, more civilians taken hostage. The Council's response was the same: strongly worded condemnations and ineffective patrols. "They don't understand," he muttered to himself. "Sometimes peace must be protected by those strong enough to fight." In his training facilities, troops continued their preparations. They practiced boarding actions against pirate ships, rehearsed hostage rescue scenarios, and fine-tuned their combat skills. Every soldier knew that when they finally moved against the pirates, they would have to be perfect. One mistake, one excessive use of force, would confirm the Council's fears about humanity. As reports of pirate attacks continued to flood in, Min Su knew they were running out of time. Somewhere out in space, Captain Scar was planning something that would force their hand. The only question was whether humanity's hidden forces would be ready when that moment came. For now, they trained in silence, preparing for the day when the galaxy would learn that humanity's strength had always been meant to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The Centaur hub was humanity's proudest achievement in Council space, a massive station that showed how humans could build, not just fight. Commander Su Jin Choi stood at her control center, watching as 30 pirate ships dropped out of hyperspace. "This is Commander Choi of Centauri Hub. We have 50,000 civilians aboard. Requesting immediate council assistance," she broadcast, knowing their defenses wouldn't last long. Captain Scar's face appeared on the main screen, his cybernetic eye glowing menacingly. "Surrender now, and we'll only take your valuables. Resist, and we take everything, including lives." The Council Defense Fleet arrived quickly. 20 ships of various sizes. Su Jin felt hope rise until she saw their tactics. They fired warning shots, trying to drive the pirates away without causing serious damage. Scar laughed. His ships tore through the Council fleet like paper. Within minutes, the defenders turned and fled, leaving the hub alone. "All civilians to secure zones," Su Jin ordered through the station-wide system. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill." Dr. Jin-Ho Park was in his lab when the attack began. The xenobiologist had been studying alien cellular structures when the first explosion rocked the station. He quickly realized the secure zones wouldn't hold against determined pirates. "This way," he called to a group of frightened aliens, leading them to his research section. The lab's containment units, designed to hold dangerous specimens, would make excellent safe rooms. The pirates breached the outer defenses. Su Jin watched in horror as they systematically disabled crucial systems. "This is Commander Choi broadcasting on all frequencies. We have children aboard. Please, anyone who can hear this." In his lab, Jin-Ho organized the survivors. His human strength let him move heavy equipment to barricade doors. He used his knowledge of alien biology to ensure everyone had proper atmospheric conditions in their hiding spots. "They're coming through Section 7, a security officer reported. The station's few guards, limited by council regulations, could only watch helplessly. Jin-Ho looked at the scared faces around him. Centaurians, Meridians, even a young Arthosian. These were the people he'd spent years studying and learning from. Now they huddled together, their various physiologies showing universal signs of fear. "Commander," he called Su Jin on a secure channel, "I have an idea. The research labs, we have equipment the pirates would want. We can use it as bait, set traps." Su Jin considered this as she watched more pirates board her station. It wasn't a military response. That would be illegal. It was science, being used cleverly. "Do it," she ordered. "But be careful. We're walking a fine line with council laws." Jin-Ho began setting up his labs. He knew humans weren't allowed to fight. But surely using lab equipment for defense wasn't fighting. He positioned specimen containment fields where they could trap invaders. He prepared experimental atmosphere mixtures that would disorient pirates without causing permanent harm. As the pirates moved deeper into the station, Su Jin kept broadcasting. She knew help wouldn't come from the council. Their forces had already fled. But perhaps someone else was listening, someone who remembered that strength meant nothing without the courage to use it for others. The station shuddered as more pirates forced their way aboard. In the labs, Jin-Ho looked at his makeshift defenses and the frightened civilians behind them. In her control center, Su Jin sent one final message, not to the council, but to Earth. The breaking point had arrived. The only question was, who would break first? The message from Centauri Hub reached Earth's hidden command center. Within minutes, Captain Hyun Woo-song stood on the bridge of the Mercy's Hand, a ship officially registered as a medical transport but packed with hidden military tech. "All rescue fleet vessels, launch protocol active," he announced. 20 ships rose from their concealed bases, their hulls marked with red crosses and emergency response codes. Not a single weapon system showed on council scans. "Remember," Han Woo transmitted to his crews, "we're a civilian rescue operation. Defensive measures only." Lieutenant Yoon Kim led Shadow Squadron. 5 ships disguised as maintenance vessels. Her pilots were Earth's best, trained in secret for months. They approached the Centauri Hub at maximum speed. "Pirates detected," her sensors officer reported. 3 dreadnoughts, 20 smaller craft. They've breached the station's outer rings. Hyunwoo's voice came through clear. Begin rescue operations. Protect those civilians. The pirates noticed the approaching ships and laughed. Their sensors showed only civilian vessels, easy targets. Captain Scar ordered his forces to destroy them. That's when humanity showed its true capabilities. The medical ships deployed their emergency shields, experimental technology that could absorb and redirect energy. Pirate weapons fire bounced harmlessly away. The maintenance vessels demonstrated emergency maneuvers that no civilian ship could perform. Yuna's squadron moved with impossible precision. Her ships danced between pirate vessels, using their rescue tethers, actually advanced gravity weapons, to throw enemy ships off course. They didn't fire a single shot. They didn't need to. 3 dreadnoughts approaching, ma'am, her tactical officer warned. Yuna smiled. Show them our emergency protocols. Her squadron split into perfect formation. The pirates fired everything they had, but couldn't land a hit. The human ships moved too fast, too smoothly. They wove between the massive dreadnoughts, their maintenance beams slicing through weapon systems and engines with surgical precision. Inside the station, Commander Sujin watched in amazement as the pirate forces fell into chaos. Captain Scar screamed orders, but his ships were being systematically disabled without taking a single life. This is impossible, Scar roared. They're civilian ships. Lieutenant Kim's voice cut through all channels. This is a rescue operation. Stand down and prepare to be boarded by emergency response teams. The rescue teams that entered captured pirate ships moved with military precision. Their medical scanners detected hidden weapons. Their emergency restraints subdued pirates with remarkable efficiency. Captain Song watched from his bridge as Yuna's squadron herded the disabled dreadnoughts together. Not a single pirate had died. Not one civilian had been harmed. The rescue fleet had won without technically fighting at all. Station secured, Yuna reported. All hostiles contained. Medical teams proceeding to assist survivors. In his command center, Admiral Min Su Kang allowed himself a small smile. They had just shown the galaxy that humanity's strength could save lives without taking them. The Council would have questions, but they couldn't deny the results. The Centauri hub was safe, and the galaxy had just learned an important lesson. Sometimes the most powerful warriors are the ones who know how not to fight. Admiral In Ho Chung stood before the Galactic Council, his expression solemn. After the Centauri hub incident, he knew it was time for honesty. The massive chamber was packed, every council member present for this emergency session. Honorable representatives, he began, you've seen our rescue operation at Centauri Hub. What you witnessed was approximately 15% of human combat capability. A wave of shock rippled through the chamber. Ambassador Xith's scales turned pale gray. Explain, he demanded. In-Ho nodded to his aide, who activated the chamber's holographic system. The first image showed a human ship from the rescue fleet. This vessel disabled 3 pirate ships using what we called emergency protocols. Now let me show you a real human military exercise. The next hologram displayed a similar ship in a training scenario. It moved twice as fast, its maneuvers impossibly precise. The weapons it carried weren't disguised as rescue equipment. They were clearly visible and devastatingly effective. By Council standards, our civilian ships would qualify as heavy military vessels. In-Ho explained, our actual military ships. He let the footage play, showing exercises that made the Centauri hub operation look like a children's game. A Meridian representative floated forward. Why show us this now? Why reveal your true strength? Because you need to understand, In-Ho replied. We didn't hide our capabilities out of deception, but out of consideration. Every time we've demonstrated our abilities, we've held back, not to trick you, but to avoid causing fear. More footage played. Human Marines in training, moving faster than most species could track. Special Forces units lifting weights that would crush standard military exoskeletons, combat simulations showing reaction times that seemed impossible. Ambassador Xith watched, remembering his predecessor's warnings. "The ban," he said slowly, "it wasn't just about your strength, was it? It was about our fear of it." In-Ho nodded. "We could have ignored the ban. We could have forced our way into council space. Instead, we chose to protect while pretending not to fight." The chamber erupted in discussion. Some representatives called for stricter restrictions. Others argued for immediate military alliance. "Look at what we did at Centauri Hub," In-Ho continued. "We could have destroyed those pirates in seconds. Instead, we captured them without casualties. That's not weakness, that's control." He played one final recording. Human soldiers rescuing civilians of various species, their movements carefully measured to avoid causing fear or harm. "We're not hiding anymore," he declared. "But we're also not threatening. Earth's strength has always been, and will always be, for protection." Ambassador Xith rose slowly. "I understand now. When my predecessor warned me about humans, I thought he meant their physical power. But he meant something else. Their restraint. That's what truly makes them dangerous." "Not dangerous," In-Ho corrected. "Valuable. We don't want to rule or dominate. We want to protect. Let us do what we do best. Be the guardians, not the conquerors." The council chamber fell silent as the truth sank in. Humanity hadn't just hidden its strength, it had hidden its nature. They weren't the monsters some had feared. They were something far more interesting. Powerful beings who chose to be gentle. The galaxy would never see humans the same way again. The grand signing ceremony of the Park Sith Accords marked a historic moment in galactic history. Daihan Park, Earth's chief negotiator, and Ambassador Xith sat across from each other in the Council's crystal chamber, their pens poised over the document that would reshape the galaxy's security structure. "This isn't just removing a ban," Daihan explained to the assembled representatives. "It's creating a new framework for peace." The Accords laid out clear guidelines. Humans would serve as the Council's primary peacekeeping force, but with strict oversight and transparency. Every human vessel would carry alien observers. Training programs would be open to all species willing to learn. Captain Jian Li stood at attention as she received command of the First Joint Fleet. Her crew was a mix of humans and aliens, each chosen for their unique abilities. The sight of her flagship, Unity's Shield, with both Council and Earth emblems, brought tears to many eyes. "Our strength has always been yours," Jian addressed her crew. "Now we can show it openly." The changes were immediate. Piracy rates dropped by 80% in the first month. Trade routes that had been considered dangerous became safe passages. The mere presence of human ships deterred most threats without need for action. In the Rigel sector, a human Arthosian joint patrol demonstrated the new paradigm. When smugglers threatened a civilian transport, the human ships moved with controlled power, while their Arthosian partners provided tactical support. The smugglers surrendered without a shot fired. Ambassador Xith watched training sessions where humans taught other species their techniques, not just combat skills, but the philosophy behind them. When to show strength, when to hold back, how to protect without destroying. "We feared what we didn't understand," he admitted to Daihan during a review meeting. "We saw your power and assumed it meant danger." Daihan smiled. "The strongest shield doesn't need to strike to protect." The galaxy adapted quickly. Species that had once flinched at human movement now sought their presence. Council stations proudly displayed the new Joint Security Force emblem, a human hand holding up a star, representing protection for all. Captain Jian's fleet became legendary for its effectiveness. They didn't just maintain peace, they built trust. Every mission demonstrated that human strength was a resource for the galaxy, not a threat to it. 1 year after the Accords, the Council chamber heard a different kind of report. Not about human power, but about human wisdom. about patrols that ended without violence, conflicts resolved through presence rather than force, and a galaxy learning that true strength lay in knowing when not to use it. The Park Sith Accords didn't just change rules. They changed perspectives. The galaxy learned that the most powerful guardians were those who chose to protect rather than dominate, and that human restraint wasn't a mask for strength, but the truest expression of it. As Daeun often said, "We're not here to rule the stars. We're here to help them shine more brightly for everyone." The end.